first
It
enterprise.
was my first company ever, yes. Up until then, I had just been a cookie cutter management consultant, just traditional, check in for a job and work hard, long hours. But yeah, it never occurred to me to really start a company. And
what was the aha moment where you got the idea for Shazam then?
Basically we went through, I first chose co-founders before we actually knew what business we were going to start.
Oh, you knew before the company?
Yeah, so we thought, okay, well, let's start a company together.
And these were friends of yours or people you went out and got directly?
No, they're actually friends, 2 friends.
Okay.
The fourth one was not a friend. We had to hunt him down.
Yeah, the engineer.
Yeah, exactly, the inventor. But these 2, one of them was a classmate in business school, and one of them was just a friend from around the city, both talented guys.
And you're living, just to give everybody context, in the UK at the time.
And so we were living, I was doing my MBA at Berkeley, but
yeah.
then I was doing, then I went out and did a semester at London Business School. And so I was in London, correct. And so it was during that period when I was in London doing an internship and so on at Microsoft, that we were in this mode of, hey, we're going to start a company. We have no idea what, but something. And we would literally meet at cafes in London and just brainstorm. We would just throw out ideas, write them down on paper.
What was some of the early companies you considered?
There was the one that I thought about doing that quite seriously for a bit was contact lenses, selling contact lenses and all eye-related care on the web.
Yes.
Again, this is 1998,
Yeah.
so actually, had we done that, it could have been very successful. I think 1-800-CONTACTS became a huge business.
Yeah, of course it
did. I just found that I couldn't get that excited about it. I kind of thought, can I wake up every morning going, need to sell contacts on the web? And as you know, you need to put in a lot of passion and energy to start a company. So the breakthrough idea actually with Shazam was not, hey, wouldn't it be great if you could identify a song with a mobile phone? That was not the breakthrough idea, because actually there were about 6 companies doing that. But that no one's
doing what?
They were all embarked on trying to identify songs with a mobile phone.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but
even though there were no real smartphones at that point, right?
Right. This was early days. So one was Sony Corporation, and they had a little startup called eMarker. It was actually a device. That was not a phone. It was a little device you clicked. And then there was one called I can't remember the names of these kind of companies now.
That's okay.
Music. But anyway, so basically, what they were all doing is doing the traditional thing that one would do when you start a business, which is just, okay, here's a business I want to start. How do I go about it? And so the logical thing, working with existing technologies and building something, was to monitor radio play. And so that's what they were all doing. They were monitoring the radio stations, and then with these services, you'd say, I'm listening to this radio station, 105.3,
right.
And then you'd enter that on your phone, and then they would tell you, okay, here's a song that's playing at this moment on the radio. Because that was technically feasible. We know what songs are playing on the radio. Yeah. It's not a hard problem to figure that out.
Yeah.
So the breakthrough at Shazam was that I was thinking about that business because it was early days and no one had really taken off yet. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to come up with something like that? But I was taking a class at London Business School called Strategic Innovation, taught by Kostas Markitis. And it was really encouraging you to think outside the box about everything, question everything.
Yes.
And I was thinking about, if I created a business where I would track what's going on in all these radio stations and it would be similar to these other startups, what could someone do that would leapfrog me, that would just leave me behind in the dust?
Yes.
That's the strategic innovation.
So you thought in terms of your competitor if you were in that business.
Exactly. What would just invest all these years building this business, what would just leave me in the dust and just make me irrelevant? And then that was the breakthrough, because then I thought, what if you could just identify the song like from the air? Not from the radio station. It's literally in the air. And then you wouldn't have to enter the radio station. And not only that, but it wouldn't just work for radio play. You'd use it in cafes, bars, clubs, movie theaters, everywhere you go, right? Shopping malls, anywhere you hear a song. Because it's not just radio out there.
Yeah. That's wild. One of the things I try to teach all entrepreneurs is there's always 2 businesses you're running. The business you're in and the business you're becoming. And in order to be the business you're becoming, you've got to think about what would knock you off. I mean, you actually use that principle on your own. That's pretty awesome. Tell me, so you come up with the idea, you've got some initial partners, you start, as I understand it, to try to ask people, and they all say it's impossible, which lights your fire, which I love. So tell us more about those early days when it's impossible, and then tell us how you got to your 4th partner, your engineer. Is it even?
Avery.
Avery.
Yeah. So yeah, so here we have this idea, and again, we're non-technical guys, the three of us, and so we're like, oh yeah, we'll just invent this technology. You know, you hold your phone up, and it's pattern recognition, and it will hear the sound over the phone. And these are ancient phones, right? This is in the year. This is in 2000, and it will identify the song. Great. Okay, so now how do we go about doing this? Go onto Google, type in a few things, a few queries, and we start to realize, okay, the people that are really advanced in this audio area, sort of pattern recognition, are basically, they're people who have focused on electrical engineering with a focus on digital signal processing, with a focus on audio signal processing.
Yes.
And then it's among those people focused on audio signal processing, some people had a particular interest in music.
Okay.
And we find these people on the web. They've published papers, done various studies, and they typically had come out of places like MIT Media Lab, or Stanford had a group called the Center for Computer Research in Music and Acoustics. And maybe in this program, 2 or 3 PhDs would graduate each year, and with a music PhD, music acoustics PhD. So we go out and we meet these guys, a few of them that we find, just reach out to them, and we're like, we have a top secret idea. We can't tell anyone, but we need to invent this technology that can identify songs on a mobile phone, okay? And they said, I'm sorry, that's just not possible. You know, I know every technology out there. I don't know of any way to do something like that. And the reason is because you're dealing with, in pattern recognition, when you combine 2 core challenges, and one is scale, a lot of music, and then the other one is noise.
Yeah, because you're in a bar, you got people talking and still being and recognize the song at any point in the song too, right?
Any point in the song, and there could be all kinds of audio challenges and so on. You have the phones have vocoders that emphasize the human voice and de-emphasize all other sounds, noise cancellation. Just all these technologies working against you, and it was just incredibly. We would capture some of these sound samples, and you could barely hear the music, and so they just had no idea how to do it. We finally found this professor who was kind of famous in this little circle of audio signal processing people, Professor Julius Smith at Stanford. He was famous because he had invented the algorithms behind the Yamaha synthesizers that are out there today, and all Yamaha or all electronic keyboards.
Yeah.
And so we went to him, and he said, I have no idea how to do this either. But he said, I think it's a great idea, and I'd be happy to be your advisor and help out.
Wow.
And so his first project as advisor was I brought him a list of names, and I said, I found all these names, and they're pretty much, they're all PhDs, mostly out of MIT and Stanford and Berkeley and so on. And I said, we need a co-founder, and we need him to be like a genius. And so he knew all the names because it's a small world. They go to the same conferences. And I just said, can you just rank the 5 smartest guys on this list, and just guys and gals, and we're going to go after those people as our co-founder. And I want them to be people that, because clearly they're all very smart, right? They're all PhDs from MIT and so on. But anyway, we said we need them to be like an inventor.